Beetlejuice is a 1988 film that somebody just saw for the first time.
I'm sorry, guys. This is my first time seeing it. So today is Saturday. The first time I've ever seen this movie was this past Tuesday.
Which makes me so excited.
And I'm gonna burst your bubble because I hated this movie.
You hated it?
Beards and Flicks, baby.
Okay, guys. Welcome back to
guys.
Beards and Flicks. My name is Brad Johnson. I'm here with
Michael Davis,
as always. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm great.
You doing good?
I am ecstatic.
Are you excited about today's podcast?
I am, and I'm excited to record in general because it's been 3 weeks instead of our normal 2 weeks. And the extra week made a big difference for me because this past week drugged, so I couldn't wait to get to today.
Well, I'm super excited about today because we have a special guest.
Hey.
It's our first time to have a guest on the podcast, which we said we wanted to do.
Right.
And I got a call from a buddy a few days ago, and he said, "Hey, man, I'm going to be in town this weekend. Can I crash at your place?" I said, "Hey, why don't you come on, and we're going to record and talk about Beetlejuice." So his name is Jeff Warren. Jeff, say hello to the audience.
Hello, audience.
Jeff!
You got to do it. Yeah. Jeff and I met each other in 1999.
Yep.
And we met each other at Brutones, a local venue that is now defunct, I think. I don't think they're doing anything anymore.
I think it's just a church
Just
now.
a church.
Yeah.
Just a church now.
It's just a church.
So, Jeff, how did we meet?
I was at a show.
Take us back to 1999.
1999, you were so excited to be there. I was just trying to decompress from the day. And you came up because you're a ball of energy.
Yeah.
You're always a ball of energy. And you're like, hey. And I'm like, what's up?
We'll see. Okay, let's set the stage a little bit because it was, I believe it was like October, November.
Yeah.
And I was about to start the January internship.
Right.
You had been in since August.
Yep.
And I had just graduated high school in May.
Right.
And this was my next step in life to go to Teen Mania for the year.
Yeah.
And to, all that encompasses that.
Yeah.
And I was super excited.
Yeah.
And I see you, and you're wearing these shag carpet green pants. And you're wearing your green Doc Martens.
Yep.
I don't remember, I think it was like a white t-shirt.
It was a green Superman, like Krypton green.
That's what it was.
Kryptonite green.
Yeah.
It actually glowed in the dark.
And I was like, I got to talk to this guy because, he looks badass. And I was like, hey, my name is Brad. I'm about to go. And you're like, well, I don't know how I knew you were going to Teen Mania. Maybe.
You're like, hey, are you in Teen Mania? And I was like, yeah.
Oh, I just asked you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in Teen Mania. He's like, oh, yeah, I'll be there in August, whatever.
No,
it was.
January.
January.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool.
And that's how our friendship started.
That was it.
And then I got into the internship, and we reconnoitered again, and helped you run sound and do the live stuff for that whole year. And then you graduated in August, but you stayed, right?
Yeah, I stayed around for a little while.
Yep.
It's like that kid that graduates high school, but he still stays at the school for whatever reason.
Well, post your graduation and post my graduation, we met up again after Teen Mania, and we got an apartment together.
Yeah.
And we lived there until I went to film school.
Yeah.
So it was about a year and a half, maybe.
Yeah.
Or so, because we were both working at KVNE at the time.
Yeah, we were.
You had the midnight shift.
We were working at a local radio station as I was an overnight DJ, and
I did the 9 to midnight shift.
Yeah,
and I would get off, and you would come in.
And I did the midnight to
6 a.m.
6 a.m., 7 a.m., wherever the morning show started.
Yeah. We lived together.
Yeah.
We both worked for a local church.
Yeah.
You were doing sound.
We were doing that.
We both
too.
worked for KVNE at the same time.
Yep.
And I never saw you unless we were at church together.
Yeah.
At home, I never saw you.
Yeah. Well, I sleep on the couch while you were going to work.
Yeah.
And then you'd come home and go to sleep, and I'd wake up and go to work.
And then after that, I go to film school. 14 months later, I moved back, and we lived together again.
Yeah, and that's when we mutually moved out.
Yep.
And went our separate ways. You went to Florida. I went to Philadelphia. And worked for a production company up there doing sound. And then a bigger company in New York picked me up, moved into New York, worked there, and then I moved back because I was like, I got to get back for family reasons, and I got a job as a staff member at Teen Mania.
That's right.
Doing
you went back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the doing stage monitors.
For the Acquire the
sound.
Fire show.
And
that's cool.
And me and another buddy, Josh.
Yeah. We had an upstairs, downstairs apartment.
We had like
my bedroom was
room.
downstairs. You guys were upstairs, and you were never home. You were the best roommates.
Yeah, me and Josh were never home, but we paid all the bills.
Always on the road, paying rent, paying bills, sending me money, or however you did it. I don't remember how we did it. I think you guys would send me money orders or whatever it was.
Yeah,
maybe just write me checks or whatever it was.
Or something, yeah.
And I had that whole apartment to myself. It was great.
It was a 3-bedroom condo, yeah.
Yeah, back in 2004?
Yeah,
ish.
Sounds right.
So I'm so excited that you're here today. We're going to be talking about Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice is a 1988 film that somebody just saw for the first time.
I'm sorry, guys. This is my first time seeing it. So today is Saturday. The first time I've ever seen this movie was this past Tuesday.
Which makes me so excited.
And I'm going to burst your bubble because I hated this movie.
You hated it?
It's the least amount of notes I've ever written for a movie. I have so many issues with this film.
Oh, my gosh.
And I feel like
excited.
maybe it's just because it's one of those out-of-time movies that Jeff and I were talking about earlier, where it's one of those movies that was good in that time period, but you watch it now for the first time, it doesn't connect.
Yeah.
And for me, this movie didn't connect on any level for me.
No, and nowhere in the film.
I watch a lot of movies like you do. I can find some way to connect to some aspect of the movie. With this one, it was just none of it worked for me. Yeah. So this is gonna be fun, guys.
This is gonna be good. So Jeff, what are your thoughts on Beetlejuice?
Well, like what he was saying earlier, there's a lot of movies that when I see them come out, or I see them when they come out, and 80s, 70s, even early 2000s, and I'm like, wow, that was a good movie. That was entertaining. And then I go back and watch it, and I'm like, that's crap.
What did I like about that movie?
What is wrong with this? But I think you have to take those movies and put yourself in that mindset of when it came out, the kind of where the industry was,
right?
And what they were doing in the movie. Beetlejuice is one of those quirky, funny movies that raunchy that I enjoy, and I mean, I like some pretty bad movies, but this ain't bad. This is one that I've watched on and off again. Every year or two, I'll put it on. I'll watch a little bit of it. I'll watch all of it. It just depends on. I'll leave it or take it. It's great. I think we see a lot of actors at the beginning of their career, and they're just throwing stuff out there to see if it sticks.
And I think that's probably one of my problems with this movie is it's an early Alec Baldwin, early pre-Batman Michael Keaton, early Gina Davis, and so and early Winona Ryder.
Yeah,
she was so young.
She was basically a kid.
Yeah.
But like he said though, there's certain movies that just fit for that time period.
Yep.
88 was a really weird year for movies.
Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about the cinematic atmosphere of 1988.
So we're talking about Roger Rabbit, Die Hard, the original Die Hard,
Yep.
School Days, classic, Rain Man, Child's Play, Big, great movie, Twins,
So good.
Coming to America, and Willow. So even in that,
My goodness.
those are the biggest movies of 88, and that's a big, you know.
We're about to get a new Willow on Disney Plus. They're doing a Willow series.
Really?
Everything is new, man. It's a reboot of something. I hate it. Where are the original ideas? Hollywood, hire me. I have nothing but original ideas.
There's only a few original ideas.
That's true.
Like
People hate them.
There's only 7 original ideas?
If
Isn't that
that
right?
many, yeah.
All the different the story architect. You know, like the man versus man, man versus evil.
Right.
All that stuff. And there can only be so many that come out of those. But
I agree.
We keep seeing Hollywood reboot the beloved movies that we saw growing up, and they're not that great.
They usually
rebooted.
don't work that well.
They usually don't.
They don't recoup that money back. So
I promise listeners we're going to do a movie that I don't like, but this one's
it's
not.
coming.
This one's not that. I love this movie,
Yeah.
and that's going to be a thing that I say a lot because I love movies.
there were several times while I was watching this where I thought I'm going to text Brad and tell him how much I hate this. So most of the notes that
Well,
I
I'm
have
glad you
today
didn't.
are going to be issues that I have.
Well, I'm glad you didn't text me because we're going to talk about it.
Awesome, let's do it.
Let's talk about Tim Burton a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Tim Burton. Always have been.
Huge. I think through his quirkiness and his weirdness That two things. I think you're either you get it and you love it, or you're like you hate it. And there's no in between. I've never met anybody who said, Tim Burton, whatever.
Are there any Tim Burton vehicles that you absolutely love?
2 years later, he does Batman. Or 1 year later, he does Batman. So love that one.
What about Planet of the Apes?
The Mark Wahlberg?
Mm-hmm.
Listen, man, I love Mark Wahlberg, man, so it's hard for me to vote against that movie.
And Paul Giamatti and all the different people in that movie. So I'm a big Tim Burton fan. I really like Beetlejuice. I really like Batman 1 and 2, Batman and Batman Returns.
Right.
I love Frankenweenie. I loved. List off some of the ones you love, Jeff. That Tim Burton did.
I really liked Batman Forever. I really liked. Everybody's gonna hate me on this. I loved Mars Attack, because it's a quirky, funny kind of aliens. How the 40s and 50s, correct me if I'm wrong, how they saw aliens.
Couldn't you say that's like more of a spoof on the alien invasion movies?
It is, yeah.
It's got David Duchovny, who's from the X-Files at that time. Actually, Michael J. Fox is in that, right? Or is that another movie?
No, Michael J. Fox is in it.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's so many people in that, yeah.
Jack Nicholson.
That's Tim Burton? Okay, see, I didn't even know that.
So Jack Nicholson, Pierce Brosnan, Sarah Jessica Parker, Annette Bening, some major players. Glenn Close, Danny DeVito, Martin Short, Michael J. Fox, Rod Steiger. Like, the list goes on and on about who's in that movie.
God,
it's a major... And
Natalie Portman.
I actually showed that movie to Remy not too long ago, and he bought into it. He was in it. He was like, "This is weird, Dad," and like, I like it, you know. And it was really fun to see him interact with Mars Attacks.
I loved it. I love that movie.
Now you misspoke. I think you said Batman Forever, but I think you meant Batman Returns.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
I did, yeah.
1992. Edward Scissorhands.
Edward Scissorhands.
You know, so Beetlejuice is his first real big movie besides Pee-wee's Big Adventure, which I don't, it did okay on release, but I think it turned into more of a cult movie.
People that are fans of the show.
And I think that's safe to say that's what his movies do. Like,
right.
And until Batman was a major wide release, like big movie, right?
Yeah.
But before that and since then, most of his movies, don't really get received well, but they turn into cult classics that you return to every year, and the more you watch it, the better it gets, type thing. I'm really curious to know, like, what's the first thing you didn't like about Beetlejuice?
So one of the biggest issues, and this is kind of bouncing around, but so the ending ends on a random, like, musical number.
Okay.
And there's another musical number that's even more weird than that. It's the dinner possession scene.
Mm-hmm.
Just that whole scene fell flat. It went on too long. And I'm not a big fan of musicals. Maybe that's why. But nothing in this movie fit to me. Like, he must have been on several drugs making this movie. I feel like
the only time that I've seen a musical with you was The Greatest Showman.
But that was really good.
We both loved it.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not one to just say, "Oh, let's pick the musical out of everything that's out and go see it."
Yeah.
This wasn't technically a musical, but
Right. But those scenes had those elements.
Yeah, it had two musical numbers, and I wasn't a fan of either. It was really weird and odd to me.
Well, and you ask people who are big fans of Beetlejuice, what stands out, and they say the song Deo, which is actually the boat song. I did a little deep dive because I had some question marks there, and it's a sung and made famous by Harry Belafonte.
Right.
And that catapulted his career.
Yeah.
He was known for that song, and he performed that song everywhere he went. And I didn't understand the song, and because I knew all the words, and it's a calypso song. It's a Jamaican work song,
right,
for the workers that work through the night to cut the bananas and are waiting for the boat to come pick up their bananas and pay them for the bananas.
Gotcha.
So it's come Mr. Tallyman, tally me banana.
Right.
Yeah, I've got bananas. Come tell me how much they're worth. I'll throw it on the boat. Give me my money. And so in those cultures they would sing these songs to keep the rhythm of working and to pass the time.
Gotcha.
And so I really love those old, just kind of working songs. I think they play a big piece in the cultures that they come from. And a lot of times it's those songs are, talking about the struggles they're going through, or talking about how hard the work is, and that they're working to get through what they're doing to a better life. But this one is just a simple, I cut bananas through the night,
right?
And the daylight come, and I want to go home because I'm tired.
See, that's crazy. Because that's a great breakdown. Because I didn't know any of that.
Yeah.
And that makes that song even more of a disconnect from me in the scene it's played in this movie. Because the lyrics don't tie into that scene.
Oh, it's completely
whatsoever.
random.
Right.
Yeah.
Which makes it not even work for me at all.
I think completely random is kind of Tim Burton's MO.
It is, yeah.
It's just so weird that he wanted to do something different, right, with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to direct something that he'd never really seen before, something that was reminiscent of the films he'd seen growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
So he does this. He sees this script and does this.
Yeah.
And the next year you do Batman, which is, it's not as normal as it can get, but compared to what you did the year before, it's normal,
Yeah.
So there's the discrepancy
They may
between
have,
two
I wonder if
different
they were
movies.
filming these two in close proximity to each other. Like,
They had to be.
they had to have been, because it takes longer than a year to film a movie,
Right.
and produce a movie. So this coming out in 88, and then Batman coming out in 89.
Right.
That's pretty big. So, interesting piece of trivia. This is Michael Keaton's favorite film of his own. Now, I don't know when that piece of trivia was written, because he's done a lot of movies.
Since.
So IMDb doesn't say when that. There's no timestamp on that
Okay.
on that piece of trivia. But I want to say, I love him in this role. I don't know, he didn't really do a whole bunch before this. He did a whole bunch he was auditioning for TV roles. He did Mr. Mom. He was doing a lot of different comedy movies. And in my opinion, this is one of his best comedy roles.
So if that's the case, it's tragic that he's not even in it that much.
Yeah, you're right. And
He's a title character, and he's in it for a handful of scenes, and that's it.
But when he comes on screen, he owns the scene.
I agree with that, though.
14 and a half minutes.
That's how long his-
That's it. Yeah, I was gonna say
14 and
it's
a half
less than
minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
Man, that is crazy. And that's most of what I remember from the movie is
And I wonder
his lines. What are we were sitting around last night at True Vine, and you were delivering some of your favorite Beetlejuice lines. What were they?
Yeah, and I watch these movies and I pick up these catchphrases and I put them in my life, and then I forget where I got them from until I watch the movie again. And yeah, we come for your daughter, Chuck. And that's
really good interpretation.
I've said that line. It's the stop motion snake, the handrail that turns into a snake, and he's trying to abduct Winona Ryder.
Yep.
And for the wedding, air quotes. And
We'll get to that because that's creepy.
yeah, it's Tim Burton.
Yeah.
And,
It screams Tim Burton.
And the snake, said, "We come for your daughter, Chuck."
Yeah.
And yeah.
perfect delivery, by the way.
It is really
It's really
good.
good.
And so I've said that since it's come out, and totally forgot that it came from that movie. And
Yeah.
then when I saw it, it just everything
Yeah.
clicked in.
Michael Keaton, for me, is one of my favorite actors. I think he did a really good job with Birdman.
Okay.
I think he did a really good job with being the Vulture in Spider-Man.
Spider-Man: Homecoming.
And I think those roles were really, really well done for him. I'm sorry, really well chosen for him.
Yeah.
What are some Michael Keaton roles that you didn't like besides Beetlejuice?
That's probably the only one.
So you like everything else?
I like
he's in?
everything else he's in, so it's nothing
Yeah.
against him. It was just this movie as a whole for me. I just couldn't connect to it
Yeah.
in any way.
I was listening to another podcast the other day, and it was the Literally podcast with Rob Lowe, and he was interviewing Alec Baldwin. When he was interviewing Alec Baldwin, he asked him about this movie, and they talked about this movie briefly, and Alec Baldwin talked about how he didn't get it while they were filming.
Okay.
He didn't understand what was happening. He didn't like his character. Tim Burton wanted him to play like just a straight character.
Yeah.
And Alec Baldwin had all these other ideas.
Real quick for the listeners, explain what that means, because playing a straight character and being straight, two different things.
Okay, so in comedies, and on stage and on screen, you need to have a character that isn't being a character.
Right.
Is just like vanilla, pretty plain. A lot of times on stage, I'll come out and I'll be that character because that's what the scene needs. But typically, I'm a character.
Right.
I come out and I do something zany. One of the other guys comes out and just becomes just a straight player on the scene.
Yeah.
So that the there's a contrast, right? You're looking for the difference between the zany and then the normal, or whatever normal is. So
I think it helps to play his character plays it straight in this movie. It helps to show the difference.
Yeah.
And this guy's a normal guy, and he's thrown into this crazy underworld S-type,
And as the viewer, you are watching it probably through his eyes.
Yeah.
In some respect, because you're like, what universe is this? Where are we? What's happening?
Yeah.
And that's his character.
Because there's 3 universes in this movie. If you think about it, there's the real world, there's the underworld or afterlife, whatever you want, purgatory, and then there's Saturn, which is where they go and open the door, and that sand snake.
Yeah.
They encounter that sand snake, and I think it's reference. I think Beetlejuice says, "Oh, you've been to Saturn. You saw the snake," or whatever he says. So I thought that was really cool. That who decides that's Saturn?
Yeah.
And that's a creepy looking snake.
Yeah, and I've never picked that up.
Yeah.
The numerous times that I've seen this movie that I've never picked that up.
It just stood out to me. It's like, oh, that's what people think Saturn looks like, I guess.
Yeah.
And that,
Well, and it kind of goes into the ghost unwritten rules of you die if you're a ghost. You have unfinished business, so you have to stay in one place until that unwritten rule. Until you finish that business, then you can pass on. But Tim Burton goes back and forth between this office intake of dead office.
I love the scenes that take place in that office, though.
Yeah,
those are my favorite scenes.
Yeah. I have to. I tip my hat to just This is pre-CG. This is practical everything.
This is the best practical effects.
Oh my gosh!
That in the '80s that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Some of the guy that's the flat guy that's going from the hole in the wall to the hole in the wall on his
slit. Yeah.
It's so funny, and he goes, "Here we go," and he boom, yeah, that's so funny. Perfect sound effect you just did. Do it again. Yeah, it was so good.
So something you said talking about that is the unwritten rules.
Yeah.
So in this film, Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin's characters, after they're dead, they discover this handbook. Where did that book come from? It was just there.
I think it was placed there by an unknown entity from the afterlife to kind of help them move along. And we don't understand. There's no backstory on that.
Because even the caseworker, she says, "You guys didn't read the handbook."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of things that Tim Burton does like that in his movies. Something will happen and he'll call attention to it and then explain it.
Right.
That's just how it's like a trope of his, I guess. Did you do any research on the writers or the story or anything?
So yeah, this film had 2 writers, Michael McDowell, who started the film and wrote a script, and then was let go, and Warren Scarron, ironically Scarron's last name, was brought on.
Right.
But Michael McDowell, even though he was let go early on in the process, he does get the writing credit. Warren Scarron also wrote Beverly Hills Cop 2 the year before in '87, and he wrote the script for Batman the next year.
Nice.
Yeah.
There's also a writing credit for Larry Wilson, who worked on this film, The Addams Family, and Tales from the Crypt.
Well, there you go.
So kind of all in the same...
The creepy trifecta.
The creepy trifecta.
Creepy-fecta.
The creepy.
Yeah.
So some useless trivia.
Ooh, yes.
I love useless trivia.
I love useless trivia.
My brain is full of useless trivia.
Facts.
Useless facts. My wife constantly says, "Did we need to know that?"
This has been another useless fact from Jeff Ford.
So in the waiting room, when Beetlejuice sits down between the legs and the top half, it's the character's called the magician's assistant. And so there's legs on one side of Beetlejuice and the top half of the lady on the other side.
Right.
So the character that was playing the legs was Tim Burton's girlfriend at the time.
Really?
And so when Beetlejuice is caressing the legs of this character, it's the director's girlfriend, which was kind of odd, but it's Tim Burton. He's odd.
But I wonder if Michael Keaton improv that and. That was like,
true.
You know what, I'll just let it ride, it works.
That's very true.
Because Beetlejuice is creepy, he is pervy.
Yeah, it fits.
So, and being pervy, we're going back to the wedding scene where you mimic the line perfectly. Say it again for me.
We come for your daughter,
Yeah.
Jack.
So the ending scenes come up where Beetlejuice is finally let free. You have to say his name 3 times to be let out. And his point is he's trying to marry Winona Ryder, but what's the purpose? I guess I missed that part of the film. Why is he trying to marry her? So he can stay in the real world? Is
I
that
think
why?
it's so that he can come out of the afterlife and stay into the real world.
Okay.
Or is it to have her go into the afterlife with him?
Yeah, see, I didn't catch this. I don't know. I guess it could be open for interpretation.
Maybe it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's meant to be whatever you think.
I think it is. I think it is
To
I
get
think
out
You're
of-
right, Brad. Yeah, I think it's to get out of whatever situation.
released from captivity?
We
Maybe?
could never be sent back. Maybe.
Is he stuck in the afterlife and can't move on?
I think so. I interpreted it that way.
Because remember earlier on in the film, I think the caseworker mentions something, or he even says something about if I marry this girl, it's like my green card, I can stay.
There you go.
So that's kind of your
Okay.
answer there. But why did he pick her? Is that just because she was just she was the weirdo in the real world, and I guess he thought they would be a good fit?
I don't know why. If there's an explanation of why she was chosen,
Right.
other than the fact that she already is kind of doesn't want to live anymore. You know, she has this whole suicide,
Right.
Yeah.
like
Death goth.
hanging over her head all the time.
But
you know?
she told Gina
like,
Davis's character she wanted to go on that side.
Right.
Yeah.
And she's like, sitting there writing, "I am so alone."
So she's the first documented emo. Before there were
Yeah.
emos, she's the
Yeah.
first one.
Winona Ryder.
Yeah. I'll give you that one.
Okay, so the ending, obviously, so you say his name 3 times to conjure him, right? Mm-hmm. But you say his name 3 times again to send him back.
Yes.
Now, I don't know if you guys caught this, and maybe I missed it, but I tried to pay attention to those little details. They only say his name twice at the end. But then the snake monster from Saturn comes and eats him,
Yeah.
and at the end you find him in the caseworker's office. So does that mean he was sent back? Does the snake monster overrule all
Kill a
rules?
dead guy?
Yeah, I mean, how does that work?
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those open to interpretation things, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot of what another one of Tim Burton tropes. Like,
Right.
here, I'm going to present an idea. It's
Right.
up to you whether you want to buy into it or not.
And I think that's my biggest problem with the film. I think is he leaves too many things open to interpretation. There's too many things to try to decide for yourself.
Right.
And I feel like that's kind of lazy directing.
Right.
Like I need some finality to some
Yeah.
of this.
Right.
And I didn't really get, even with the main characters, they decide to stay ghosts in their house at the end.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like they decide not to move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was there. If you look from the get-go, the start of the movie, it's a couple that is they can have houses wherever they want.
Right.
And they keep saying this is our dream house.
Right.
And they keep they're going to the hardware store before their accident to pick up supplies to
Fix up,
remodel
yeah.
their house.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is their place.
And he's
that
getting
they
some
wanna
things
be.
for his miniature thing that he built
I mean, they're
upstairs.
putting down roots.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And this is where they want to be.
Right.
And so I
and
think
there's so many cool things to show the personality of their relationship, right?
Yeah.
How like she's trying to get up off the couch and she pulls him down. And he's trying to get up and pulls her down. Like I love all those
I
little
actually like that
nuances.
too. It was like the one piece of normalcy in the film that,
Right.
that really showed that they're really a couple.
They were real. Like obviously you knew
Yeah.
they were in love.
Yeah.
Obviously you knew they did not want to ever stop
Right.
that relationship,
Right.
right? And then they die.
Right.
And luckily they're still together. They get separated and they make sure they're still together. But I love that chemistry they had. It was so good. Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was really well done.
I love when they go to the store. You're talking about the hardware store, and the security old guy's trying to tell that story, and Alec Baldwin rushes in and rushes out like, "All right, bye."
And he's still telling the
He's
story.
still telling the story.
Yeah, that's
Never
really
misses
funny.
a beat.
Yeah.
Every small town has that old guy.
They
Oh
do.
yeah.
Yeah, that you're just trying to get away, trying to get your stuff done, your groceries got, whatever.
Yeah.
And there's that one guy that is just like, let me tell you a story for the next
Absolutely.
hour.
Right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Here's a piece of trivia that I think is really interesting. The studio originally wanted to call the film House Ghosts.
Oh, this is good.
As
Yes.
a joke, Tim Burton suggested the name Scared Sheetless.
Yeah.
And was horrified when the studio actually considered using it because he was just joking. Then they landed on Beetlejuice.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, like I watch movies with subtitles. I've mentioned it, I think, before to
Yep.
you, and just because you can catch
Right.
parts of dialogue you would normally miss.
Right.
And so whenever the name Beetlejuice is said in the movie,
Mm-hmm.
it is spelled differently.
Is it with the G or with the J?
It's Betelgeuse.
Right.
Okay.
Here's what it is Beetlegeist, which they say at the beginning of the movie.
Right.
Okay.
Beetlegeist is an actual star in a constellation. That's
Right.
where they get the name.
Wow.
And many people have speculated because you'll see the name Beetlejuice or Beetlegeist spelled different, spaced different.
Okay.
In it throughout the movie, and nobody knows why.
Yeah.
And,
That's interesting.
And it's interesting to kind of catch the gravestone. I believe says Beetlegeist,
Yep,
and I think
with the
there's
G.
a space between Beetle and Geist.
Okay.
But they still say Beetlejuice.
Right.
Yep.
And then it's like a moving target, you know. And
Yeah.
so,
Yep.
but I tried to research that and tried to figure out what was going on there, but nobody is. I
solid
couldn't
answer.
find. I couldn't.
So the
find an
recurring
answer.
theme so far for me is I think
Confusion?
we've all said we're trying to figure out what's going on. We're trying to figure this
We're trying to figure it out.
I have one last complaint, and then we can move on to other topics. It's not really a complaint, it's more of a question. Who was Otho supposed to be? He's just always there with this new couple that moves in. Is he Catherine O'Hara's brother-in-law? Is he just like...
I think it's just a very close friend who happens to be an interior designer.
Interior design, yeah.
That is very much them. And so they're like, we've got to take you with us to this small podunk, hick town,
Right.
so that we can make our mark on this house.
Because he's even I think he's a medium too, right?
He's also a medium, yes,
Right.
because they have the seance.
But
or
he's just
whatever.
whenever scene that Catherine O'Hara and her husband are in, I can't remember his name, but Otho's in those scenes with them.
Yeah, let's get his name. He is hilarious. So Catherine O'Hara,
Jeffrey Jones.
Jeffrey Jones, who is famously from Ferris Bueller's Day Off
Right.
Yes.
as the principal, and I love his role in that movie. I'm glad we're talking about this bit because we talk about the chemistry between Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin, right? And how good they were together. They were almost mirrored in the chemistry between Jeffrey Jones and Catherine O'Hara because they didn't get along
At all.
She obviously wore the pants, and he was just trying to build his library,
Right.
just so he can sit in the window and look at birds and be left alone and read his magazine or read his, whatever. Just be in his little space and let her and Otho do everything else to the house with the sculptures and the different
Right.
wings that they added on.
She's like the suburbanite woman moved to this small town.
Yep.
It's very reminiscent of Green Acres, the old TV
Oh,
show,
yeah.
where
Yeah.
the husband, is it Arthur? I can't remember his name. He's like the old country boy, wants to go back to the country.
Yep.
And Zaza Gabor, she's like...
she's city. She's
yeah,
big city.
she's city,
Yeah.
socialite. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think the dynamic is with O'Hare as being an artist and being a eclectic middle-aged artist.
Just let me create.
Yeah, where especially as sculptors, and if you've ever been around artists that's their life and they're just
that's all they do.
All they do is art, and they just produce art, which I love art and I love artists. But there's some crazy people, and those crazy.
They're very eclectic.
Very eclectic, and those people have followers that will follow them.
They do,
because they just want to be around that art, and I think that's what Otho.
yeah.
I think that's what Otho is, and just happens to be a interior designer, and so them two bounce our artistic ideas off of each other. About the house, and it's crazy to me. I always watch the movie and I see that time just flows in a different way because all of a sudden you have little time jumps in the movie where it's just like the house was what the original couple had it as, and then the next second it's like completely changed.
Right.
It's because when they go into the afterlife,
time moves differently.
Time is like thrown forward when they come back out of the afterlife. Oh, so many things have happened and transpired, and the house is different, and that's the way that the viewer knows that time has passed because of the changes in the house.
I do love the open deck that they have built on the roof. It's like on the roof, but adjacent to the side.
Yeah.
And they're just hanging out. There's like a little wall there they put. And the rest is just open.
Yeah.
So much sun.
It reminds me of all the row homes in downtown Philadelphia. Everybody has the party decks on the roof, and it's just open, and you can see the city.
I think that's more of an East Coast thing. In general.
It's what they do because they have no space there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. But it's the crazy art world, being portrayed there.
So if you guys had to guess, because of what you see from the city, however minuscule it is, and this house, and how Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin's characters are, what city would you guys most likely think this could possibly be? I mean, it's a small city, so it could be anywhere USA,
I think they're Connecticut somewhere.
I can buy that. I can
Yeah.
that.
Massachusetts somewhere.
Yeah,
definitely.
I was gonna say like up north
Because it looks New England-ish.
with like some
It actually does. You're right.
like some mountainous areas
Yeah.
where producing lots of big streams and stuff like that.
Right.
It's a town I wouldn't want to live in because I do feel like everyone knows your business because it's so small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That if anything, any little tragedy or any drama happens in your life,
Right.
the whole town will know, especially the security
Well,
guard.
that's what happened in this
Yeah.
film. Like they died, and that real estate agent comes up, and she's like, "It's just so sad," and all this stuff. And okay, there's a part of the movie I want to talk about that is important to me because as an improviser, I watch movies like this, and I'm like, man, what he's doing has got to be improvised, right? 90% of what Michael Keaton said in his 14-minute on-screen time was improvised.
Yeah.
And I love that. To me, it tells me how good of an actor he is.
Yeah.
You just give him a base skeleton of a scene, and then he'll just run with it.
And let him go.
Let him go.
So here's the thing. It's only 14 minutes. And we talk about improvised lines a lot on this podcast. We have in the past episodes.
And we're going to in the future.
Yeah. But just because we mention it often doesn't mean it happens often. It's really hard to improv a scene. You have to be a certain caliber of actor or talent on camera to be able to improv your scenes and have the director have the confidence in the actor to let them do their thing.
Right. There's been several improvised movies. One with, actually, I think two with Jake Johnson from New Girl and Jurassic World. There's a movie called Drinking Buddies, and that entire movie is improvised. Anna Kendrick is in it.
Really? The whole thing?
I believe there are, again, like very skeleton scene being like outlined or whatever, and they just fill in with however the story goes.
I think the best improv movies out there is probably that whole Seth Rogen clan.
Yeah.
James Franco,
I think a lot of that
Danny
stuff
McBride,
is improvised.
because they're just good friends. They're all comedians.
Right.
They just get together and just roll.
They have that chemistry, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they are structured, kind of improvised, and then there are borderline just off the rails.
Just loose cannons.
Yeah, and I think it's almost too much for me.
Right.
Because it just sounds like a bunch of dude bros just kind of being idiots.
100%.
But then he rides that line of too much and good. And
he can't scale it back. Once he gets going, he can't tone it down.
Yeah, and so I think it's like one beat too much is right in front of him.
Right.
But he stays in his lane, improvising, and it great stuff.
Well, this piece of trivia actually kind of further explains how Michael Keaton approached this role. So according to Michael Keaton, the Beetlejuice character was described to him by Tim Burton as having lived in every time period, but no time period. Keaton used this as the jumping off point to create the character with such features as a shock hairdo, mold makeup, and large teeth. He said that when he first showed up to set as Beetlejuice, the crew was chanting, "Juice! Juice! Juice!" This got Keaton excited for his role.
See, you have to be careful. I love that he put that kind of work in for that role. So you said that most of his 14 minutes is all improv.
90% of it,
90%.
yeah.
So you have to be careful if you're going to be the only one improving, because obviously you're not telling the actors in the scene you're with. You're just going with it. So if the other characters aren't trained well enough as an actor and they're used to it, they're not going to know how to respond.
Right. And Alec Baldwin has done some improv. I don't know about Gina Davis, but I assume she's done some improv.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of actors, when they go to school, some of the things they are taught in acting school is improvisation.
Right.
And how to just go with the flow and stuff like that. Yes, and?
The budget, ironically enough, this was a $15 million movie. Shocking, right? Such a high budget for this movie.
What was the return?
$74 million.
Wow.
So they, quadrupled their budget pretty much and then some, which I thought was impressive.
That's good.
The out of that 15 million, 1 million of it was allocated for visual effects. Tim Burton wanted to be more tacky looking, less polished, more B movie, and so I think that kind of was a catalyst for Tim Burton just to kind of jump off into what he continues to do. Edward Scissorhands,
Right.
Corpse Bride.
Right. He's transitioned into more visual effects, like computer-generated visual effects.
Yep.
But what he did with the practical effects in his early films is incredible. Did you guys ever, like, when Netflix first started, did you guys join Netflix? Did you do the DVD?
Yes.
I did not.
I remember
did.
you getting, whenever we lived together, I remember you would, because I didn't do Netflix until it was a streaming service.
Yeah.
But you were doing it as a DVD service, right?
Yes, I remember when Netflix came out and they said, "We'll send you 7 DVDs for $5 a month."
Yeah.
And I didn't have to go anywhere. I didn't, and I got DVDs. I was like, "Oh, this is great!" But go ahead and say.
Well, Netflix began in '98, right?
Yeah.
And Beetlejuice was the very first DVD sent out on the Netflix platform with the DVD send-outs.
Yeah, that's monumental.
Yeah.
I wonder how that decision came about. Like, who decided
That
this
Beetlejuice would be
board
the
of
first?
members from Netflix said, let's get Beetlejuice to be the first inaugural
Well,
Netflix.
it's such a celebrated cult movie,
Yeah.
right? I know this was your first time to see it, and I love that that's your
I'm
first
going
time
to have
see
more
it.
hot takes than often than not. So that's, and I'm
that's
cool
awesome.
with that.
Yeah. We're about to record 2 more podcasts, and on the other one of those 2 is another one of your first time watches.
Yeah.
And that excites me because, like, I love talking.
Right.
I love talking about movies because we were talking about this in the car on the way here. Well, I get loud when I'm excited, and I talk fast when I'm excited, and
so do I.
this is so fun for me. And to hear your take on it, because I totally respect you where you're coming from
Right.
as a writer. You have different takes than I do, and I love that. I don't want to always have somebody on here that agrees with everything.
Yeah, you don't
That's
want
gonna be
that.
boring, right?
And I love that for this particular episode that Jeff is here for this, because you have a third person to bounce off of. And so he didn't exactly say I love it or hate it. He was just like, I liked it, and then he's kind of in between.
Yeah.
Gave some different takes.
You rewatch it a lot, like I do.
I do
Like
rewatch
I do.
it. It is on my list of movies that I'll come back to, because there's some movies that I'm like, that's a great movie. I never want to see that ever again.
I have totally done that several times.
And because it's just not
Like
either
the content's too heavy,
or the delivery at the end.
The ending wasn't
just
satisfying,
I think at times movies will, that hard delivery at the end ruins a rewatch. Where I'm like, either I know what's going to happen, or that reveal was already done, so it loses the luster of the plot.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think this is one of the ones where it has the plot is a constant incline, and and the delivery at the end, kind of you can see it coming, but it wraps it up in a bow, and you're like, wow, that was kind of fun, and the catch lines and all through the movie, it's great, and I'll come back to it, and it's I'm a child of the 80s. I love 80s movies.
Yeah.
I love 80s culture. I have the 80s channel programmed in my car on the
Nice.
Sirius XM. I love the music. I think the style was kind of weird, but but I love the 80s, and this is one of those 80s movies that I'll go back and watch.
So I have a question. Which character, aside from Beetlejuice, obviously, would you take out of this movie and give them their own movie, and you'd want to see more of?
To be honest, Otho.
That's mine too.
Like, he's such an oddball character,
Yeah.
and like, where did he come from? Why is he here?
Right, that's what I said.
What purpose does he? He obviously has a whole lot of different purposes.
And like you said at the beginning of the pod, he's the interior designer / medium, which makes me think him and Ada Mae, Whoopi Goldberg's character from Ghost, could team up.
That's interesting.
He could design her place.
So
That's
take
how they met.
Otho out of Beetlejuice and drop him in
Drop
Ghost.
him in Ghost. Make it more
Interesting.
comedic. Yeah.
Interesting. I loved
All right.
Ghost.
Jeff, what character would you like to see?
Oh man, I agree with that. I think that's a hard decision. That's a hard one on the fly, because of course you know, we're coming into the end or the middle of some of these, you know, character storylines.
That's true.
And I would really love to see, you know, Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I would love to see how he got there, who he was as a human.
Oh, that's interesting.
Some of those times
how
he
he
lived
died.
in. Yeah, how he died. We don't know how he
Prequel,
died.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to see that.
Pre-juice. We call it pre-juice.
Pre-juice.
Can we say that?
Wow. That's a whole different movie.
No, so what Jeff just said, I've never really thought of it that way when watching movies. And I love talking to others about movies because it does give you a different perspective moving forward as a film watcher. So he said, you watch these movies and these characters, some of them do come to a finality with their arc, and some don't. So a lot of times you want to see, I think the standout characters are the ones that don't come full circle in the film.
Right.
And like you said, Otho doesn't.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice doesn't. So you like to see where they come from because they are these off-the-wall characters that really stand out. You want to see more from them.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we lost Glenn Shaddix, who played Otho in 2010.
Wow.
And the last song performed at his memorial service was Deo, the
Really?
Banana Boat
song,
which was used in the dinner party scene.
That's cool.
I think that's fitting.
That scene, Tim Burton was very nervous about this scene. The trivia reads, Tim Burton feared the Deo sequence wouldn't go over well, since in his opinion, it wasn't very funny.
Right.
He turned out to be wrong because audiences loved it and think of it as one of the most iconic scenes.
So now I'm the idiot because I'm the one guy that doesn't like this scene.
Well, I think you fall in that spot where I'm like, either you love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
I don't see many or hear of it many people that see Beetlejuice and kind of go, yeah, it was okay.
Right.
And any of his other Tim Burton films.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, either you're a Tim Burton
like
fan or you're
Nightmare
not.
Before Christmas is, even though he didn't direct it, he executive produced it.
Right.
And was very involved with it. And I watch that movie every year too, around this time.
That's a Halloween.
It's a Halloween movie.
Halloween Christmas movie.
It's a Halloween getting you into Christmas kind of movie. And, you know, Remy loves it and he knows all the words and songs and everything. And I talk to friends and I'm like, I love this movie. And they're like, well, I hate that movie.
I want to reiterate again, I love and get kind of envious sometimes because I don't have kids. I was never married. I love that Brad has a kid that he can share these movies with, and we can come on the pod and talk
so
about
fun.
it. It's a really cool dynamic, and I respect Brad as a father who shares those experiences with his son and how he says his son loves these movies like the way you did. I love hearing that.
Yeah. It's very seldom that I'll show him a movie that he doesn't also like.
Right.
Or learns to like or whatever. I don't think I've ever shown him one that he just absolutely hated.
Are you picky with the movies you show him that
Absolutely,
you love?
absolutely.
Right.
Because I don't know why, you know, the content or, you know, like, is it too adult for him?
Yeah,
Will he not understand the emotions or whatever? Because he's only 9, right?
Right.
So, but however, you know, I talk about this frequently. When he was 4.5 years old or so, I showed him Twister, which, you know, disaster movie.
Yeah, I live in Twister. It's okay.
Yeah, you're from Oklahoma.
Oh man, that's right.
He would love to talk to you about. By the way,
it's tornado season. And and that happens. Yeah, it's everything in that movie happens.
Yeah.
Down the street from me.
On the street.
Yeah, disaster movie deals with death. You know, in the very beginning
In a
of the movie.
real way.
And the way he wanted to rewatch it, right? The way he wanted to rewatch it was we rented it, and the next morning he goes, "Daddy, can we watch Twister again?" But I want to skip over the talking parts.
Oh.
He just wanted to see the tornado parts, which was groundbreaking for that movie.
What if because of that?
visual
What
effects
if
and stuff.
that mindset?
We've got cows.
Puts him on this path
Just a
to become a cinematographer. How cool would that be? Father goes to film school, son becomes a cinematographer. How cool would
I
that
would
be?
absolutely love that.
Yeah.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Has he ever talked about like ambitions to do anything film-wise?
He's talked about doing acting.
Really?
He's wanted to take. He's actually, I believe his mom and his stepdad is putting him into some acting classes.
So the apple doesn't fall far from the tree then.
Yeah, and that's
really cool.
awesome. I never said, "Hey, I want you to be an actor."
Right.
I just
You let him choose.
I just show him how I love acting and how I love movies, and he just finds his own way.
Well, you know, sons normally emulate their fathers. They admire their father at that age, and he sees you. He knows you're on stage.
He's been to shows.
He knows you're a performer. You podcast. He knows you podcast, and he thinks, "I want to do that. That sounds cool."
Yeah, and consider the source. I'll talk about you, Brad, for a minute. And your standard for movies is the exact. This is why we get along. Is the exact as mine, and you're not gonna, somebody that's never seen any movies at all. You're not gonna say, hey, watch this piece of crap, and base your movie experience on this. You're gonna be like, no, I'm gonna bring you up to the standard that I have for movies. And you this is required watching list and to see these movies. So I think just like my father was huge into music, had a huge record collection, and said, you need to listen to this, and you need to listen to that, and brought me up on Led Zeppelin.
I love the Zeppelin.
Yeah. Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, all that class that's now considered classic rock, and literally just instilled the greatest of music at that time. And I have so much of a appreciation for music. I went into that industry, and I don't hate any particular type of music.
Right.
I listen to all music.
Right.
I have stuff that I prefer, but it's just that raising up and passing on that knowledge of the standard that you have, and I think that Remy's got a great teacher.
Oh,
so
it's kind of like
thank you, man.
Yeah.
So with Brad, with Remy, and then you, Jeff, with your dad, it's almost like an heirloom that's passed on. Your love for film is an heirloom that you pass on to your son.
Well, and it came from my dad.
Right.
That's great.
And your dad's love for film is an heirloom he's passed on to you. Or love for music, I'm sorry.
music, yeah.
Yeah, so
Right.
it's the same thing. It's not something physical or tangible you can feel. Not from a sense of like in your hand, but you can hear it, you can feel it emotionally, you can perceive it mentally, you
Right.
know.
Yeah, and
it's
I
really
think,
cool.
I think we when we listen to music, when we watch movies, we recall those memories of where we were, who introduced us to this, that the feeling that we have. Like there's some songs that I'll listen to and that are goofy songs, but remind me of different times that I'll bawl like a baby.
It transports you back to the moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think movies do that as well.
That's why I go back to the movies I loved. That's why I return to albums that I loved, because I'm chasing that feeling that I had when I first heard it or saw it, or who I was with or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm always going to try to recreate that, and that's why this is one of those movies that I watch every year,
Right.
because I have so many memories attached to it.
Right.
So this is a great segue. We're talking about music now. So Danny Elfman did the soundtrack for this. But listen,
And this is
really strange, but the soundtrack was only 26 minutes in length.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot. There was a lot of times in scenes when it was just the dialogue,
Just the dialogue,
right,
yeah.
or the sound effects or
Right.
whatever. There's in his score. I've since tried to find, and there's not a lot
there's
out
not.
there to listen to other than the opening theme and some stuff, because he didn't release a lot
Right.
on a CD or whatever. But this is probably around the beginning, of the relationship between Danny Elfman and Tim Burton,
Yeah.
because they do each other's
Oh, man.
work all the time.
Because
right?
Danny Elfman scored Batman the next
Yeah.
year. So yeah.
And has since gone on to do countless Tim Burton vehicles.
Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't ask you that this early, I don't think. Jeff, how old were you when you saw this movie? This came out in 88.
88,
So,
I was 10.
so you saw it when it came out in theaters?
I don't recall if I saw it in theaters, but I do believe I can recall a time seeing it at home with my father, because as much as he loved music, he loved movies, and we. Growing up with my two older sisters, we would go we'd start the weekend on Friday after Dad got off work. He'd say, "All right, everybody, get in the truck. We're going to the movie store."
Oh my gosh, this mimics your story
Very
told
similar to my
100%.
And VHSs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We even have a
everybody.
separate rewinder.
You
remember that?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yes. And everybody could pick out their movie that they wanted. So it was one for each one of the
That's cool.
us kids. and then Dad would pick out 2 or 3, and so we would literally have a 3-foot stack of VHSs, and we'd go home, and then we would vote on what movie we wanted to see first.
Wow.
And normally Dad would say, all right, what do you guys want to see?
Right.
And mine would never get picked because I was 10 years old and I got the Goofy movie. And
Literally the Goofy movie?
Well, sometimes.
No shame in that.
No shame.
No hate.
And
were you the youngest of your siblings?
I was the youngest.
Okay.
I am the youngest
Okay.
of us 3. And I admit it, I like some stupid stuff. And
I mean, we've all been there.
There's some movies that I'm all like, that is.
There, though.
I didn't stay there.
You live with that stupidity?
Yeah, there are some movies that I come out that I'll see the trailer for, and I'll just be like, wow, that's stupid. I've got to see that. Or bad, like bad movies.
What attracts you to those movies?
Is it because they're so bad?
I like to see the train wreck.
Okay.
I like to see the dumpster fire. I'm the guy, with the Slurpee watching the
This
chaos.
is the guy in traffic because of the car wreck. He won't just slowly drive by the wreck. He'll stop, put it in park, and watch. That's them.
I don't rubberneck.
Oh, okay.
Because those people piss me off. Because I've almost got in wrecks because of that. I'm all like, just keep going. Yes, the car's on
That's
fire.
how I
Just
feel.
keep going.
Yeah, get away from the fire quickly as you can. I'm the same way.
But if I'm on foot and I'm not, I have the constant fear of being in the way of somebody else.
Oh, same.
Even like walking on the sidewalk or opening a door. I have a constant fear of like, I don't want to be in anybody's way.
So I feel you on that because I'm 5'3". So my legs are shorter. It takes more effort to move fast with everybody else. So I'm constantly in someone's way. I feel like I'm always dodging these big boulders coming at me.
Right.
So I totally get that. By the way, I love that we have a guest.
Yeah, it's so fun
It's
having
a different
guest.
dynamic, and we can find a way to tie it in.
Right.
But I wanted to ask you, once you kind of started getting into like the technical process of filmmaking and sound and all that directing, did that change how you viewed movies you watched, or did you just notice more things? Did you hate movies more, or did you love movies more?
Yes to all.
Okay.
I will watch a movie and me and my wife will be watching it, and I will, because I've been behind the camera, I've shot stuff, I've edited stuff, I've produced stuff, I've been in almost every aspect of TV, recently TV, TV, film, music videos, all that I've seen, and I've worked in every aspect of it.
Right.
Other than writing and major direction.
Okay.
We'll be watching something and I'll go, wow, and I'll go, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And Jackie will turn to me, what are you talking about? And I'll literally pause it, rewind it, and I'll go, watch this shot.
Yeah.
I'll go, look at the background, look at the foreground, look at how they shot that.
Right.
Look at the movement of the camera, and 9 times out of 10, she'll pick up on it.
Okay.
But I don't know if she's tied into like the dialogue or in the story and not so much the cinematography or the writing.
Yeah.
She gets into writing a lot as well, and she introduces me to a lot of stuff from different writers, and she'll say, hey, you like this? The same writer wrote this.
Yeah.
She was big. Me and Brad had this conversation earlier, yesterday. She was big into Gilmore Girls.
Okay.
And the same writer did Orange is the New Black. And
I didn't know that.
Dialogue is very similar.
And the dialogue, the delivery, the pacing. And we're also going through West Wing. She's seen it twice.
I've never seen it.
I'm halfway through it, but the dialogue is it's dry. Those one-liners, those quick zingers that the cast, the story keeps going, and you're laughing, so you're caught up on that moment that's 10 seconds ago, and you have to rewind to okay, what did they say again?
So we mentioned Veep a few weeks ago. Veep is the same way.
Veep is very much the same way. It's very quick. And we were talking about this last night, and I was like, I have to pause when I'm watching Veep.
Yeah.
Much like I have to pause when I'm watching Rick and Morty, because like the comedy comes so often, you have to pause or you're gonna miss it because you're laughing.
Yeah.
Right. And the writing on Rick and Morty is so so intricate, and there's
man.
so many callbacks, and that I think that's one of the ones that you cannot just jump into the middle of.
Oh no,
You have
it's
to watch
episodic.
it from you have to watch it from not that
It's
each
serial.
one plays off the other one.
Right.
Not that it's a continuation,
Right.
but there's so many callbacks. There's
Yep.
so
Right.
many
Setups
references
and punches later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
That's the show that Brad, you said that it's one of your favorite cartoons because there's so many jokes per minute.
Yeah,
right?
jokes per minute is more than The Simpsons. It's more than Veep. Jokes per minute is so much.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love
Which
it.
is insane to say that because when you think about The Simpsons, there's so many jokes
Right.
per minute. So for you to say Rick and Morty has more jokes per minute than that,
Yeah.
that's got to be number one.
Yeah.
I would think.
I also love Rick and Morty because it's the relationship of
Yeah,
Doc
we
and
talked about that in the Back to the
Yeah.
Future pod. So
Yeah.
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 Let me ask you this, Brad. Simpsons, Family Guy.
Oh, can I put in a third? Futurama.
Okay, yeah, you are a big
I
Futurama
love
guy.
Futurama, and that's
Yeah.
kind of probably one of the reasons why I love Rick and Morty, because it's very similar in like time travel and like different universes and all this different kind of stuff and spaceships and
And also, so the comparison, Simpsons
Yeah.
and Family Guy.
Yeah, what's your
that's
take?
generational too. I would think because Simpsons is more for us, right?
I do love The Simpsons.
But I mean, you can love stuff obviously that's out of
Yeah.
your generation, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're obviously gonna say Simpsons.
Right.
Yeah.
Family Guy. I feel like I talk to my sister about this often. How I feel like they make it a point to offend everybody.
Yes.
And
Well,
I am,
yeah.
Like South
I am
Park.
here. I'm here for offending everyone.
Yeah.
We all can be offended. It's
Right.
because it's like
Equal
comedy.
opportunity
It's like
offender.
don't go to a comedy show and be offended at the joke because
Right.
this is what comedians do.
Yep.
They try to draw attention to things that make you feel uncomfortable, and if you can't laugh, why'd you pay the price of admission to go?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Exactly.
it's hard for me to choose Simpsons because I grew up on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Family Guy, I love. I think they've been canceled twice over their run, but they get picked up years later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are they still on air? Like, are they still shooting?
Simpsons?
No, Family Guy.
Family Guy.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I don't
know.
think so.
I think they ended their
Simpsons
run.
is still on air.
Yeah. But both are really good, and I love them both. So
Yeah.
it's hard for me to choose. I couldn't pick one. So
Yeah, I started off as a Simpsons guy, and of course because it was the only thing out there, and
Right.
then Family Guy came along, and I
I don't know.
no, the first time I found out that a white guy voices what's his name?
Cleveland.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
I was blown away.
no
Saw some-
no
yeah. That running gag of him in the tub. Yeah. It's hilarious.
My favorite Family Guy thing that I frequently return to is it's gonna rain. It's raining sideways.
Yep.
What's his name?
His name is Ollie,
Hey Ollie, with the weather report.
they actually referred to him as Blackie in one point.
Oh my God.
Are you all right?
I almost spit up my drink. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Again, the offensive part of comedy.
Oh,
you know?
so speaking of offensive, to kind of tie this back into, Beetlejuice, no black characters.
Nope.
There might have been one of the zombie football players
That's
might
what I
have
was
been
about
black.
to say.
Yep.
I was about to say that.
And that's actually one of my funnier bits is the football players.
Hey, coach.
Yeah. I think you said, hey, coach.
And like obviously, like she's like, I'm not your coach.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? And
The caseworker is probably my favorite
and
character.
then they go, oh yeah, same. And then they go, I don't think we survived that crash. Yeah.
Survived
Yeah. Another interesting tidbit about what we're talking about is in the afterlife is when Adam and Barbara are in the office, a voice on the PA system announces Flight 409 is arriving at Gate 3. United Airlines Flight 409 crashed in a mountain in Wyoming in October in 1955, killing all passengers and crew aboard. At the time, it was the worst plane crash in history. 3 plane crashes in 1955 had a total of 66 casualties.
Wow.
To this day, no one knows why it crashed.
Really?
So that's the kind of interesting things that Tim Burton puts in his movies. Little tidbits of like
It's a historical Easter egg. We talked about that this morning on breakfast.
Yeah, mysterious thing that happened in history.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you know? And I was not aware of this until I started doing research on this movie. There is a musical, Beetlejuice, the musical
I'm not
on
shocked.
Broadway.
I'm not shocked at all.
I'm aware of it. I haven't seen anything from it.
I watched a clip, and I think it was the opening of one of the Tonys one year.
Oh, cool.
And they had the cast singing a song, and I was just like,
The original cast from the movie?
no.
Oh, okay.
no,
I was gonna say,
no,
wait a
no,
minute.
no. The cast of the Broadway show.
Okay.
Singing one of their original, and I was just like, wow, really? And again, I would go see that.
You know what's
Yeah.
funny is like a lot of these movies we've been talking about, Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice, a lot of them, including Back to the Future and Beetlejuice, have Broadway musicals.
Yeah.
That is true.
You know,
Yeah.
I believe there was a Ghostbusters something on Broadway, but it's really interesting. You guys talked earlier about how your first time to see Beetlejuice.
Right.
I think the reason why I saw it for the first time was because of the cartoon. Because
Okay.
there was the Beetlejuice cartoon along with the Ghostbusters cartoon.
Right.
Back to the Future cartoon.
Right.
I think I saw the cartoon first.
Really?
And then I think I asked or just went to the video store and just found the movie.
Right.
And then watched the movie.
The
Because
source
I didn't
material,
know.
yeah.
I didn't know what it was. And that's how I watched the first one.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
That's
I've seen bits and pieces of the Ghostbusters
Cartoon.
animated cartoon, and that's where I fell in love with Slimer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was a big
and
character in the
he's
cartoon.
huge character, yeah. And
He was a part of the team.
And like I think they were trying for a spin-off, a Slimer spin-off.
Just Slimer. Yeah.
And which failed.
Yeah.
But I knew they existed, the animated Beetlejuice and Back to the Future, but I never actually pursued watching them.
Yeah.
And so
Michael Keaton's best movie, yes or no? 14 minutes and he kills 14 minutes.
Man, that's a great.
Because what would be the other suggestion? Birdman, Batman, right?
Batman,
You think?
the OG.
I same thing.
You
OG Batman for me, too.
I mean, I say OG movie. Well, even that, I consider Adam West the OG Batman.
Well, that's true, yeah.
because he was the original. And I think they did a Adam West Batman movie in that
They did,
time period.
yeah.
And so he wouldn't be the OG Batman movie guy, but I think on the reboot after Adam West, because Adam West in my mind is the number one Batman.
It's like Christopher Reeve is the Superman.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, hands down. But anything after that, now that's a dogfight. But I would consider him being Batman with Jack Nicholson as the Joker.
It was great.
Amazing. Before they put nipples on the suits. I remember going to see Batman with one of my friends that we enjoyed just movies and in high school, and man, that was an experience, and we were all like, wow,
Yeah.
wow, you know,
Because at
and-
that point, you had never seen a comic book film really jump
Yeah.
out at you the way that movie did.
yeah.
Brad, would you agree that that's Keaton's best movies, Batman, or would you say something
No,
else?
I think Batman is his best role.
Okay.
That was probably the first time I really knew who he was. Because in Beetlejuice, you don't know who Michael
Because
Keaton
the
is.
makeup,
Because
yeah.
of the makeup, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I remember watching. I had we owned the Batman VHS, and my brother and I watched it over and over and over. Wore the VHS out.
That Danny Elfman score is iconic.
It
Oh,
absolutely
man.
it is. And I was so happy whenever Danny Elfman did the animated series theme,
Right,
also,
right.
which is iconic too. Looking at his trivia and his biography on IMDb, his door-busting performance, as they call it, was in Night Shift in 1982.
That is true,
The Night
yeah.
Shift, yeah.
Then he was in Mr. Mom,
Yeah.
Johnny
Mr.
Dangerously,
Mom.
and then Beetlejuice.
Right.
He earned further acclaim for his dramatic portrayal of Bruce Wayne in Batman in Tim Burton's Batman.
Did you know that this movie, Beetlejuice, won the 1988 Saturn Award for Best Horror Film?
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
That was so odd because
And it was the Saturn Award?
the Saturn. Oh,
There it is.
there's a callback. That's
There
it.
it is.
Man,
That's crazy.
Mike is done with this podcast.
Let's see. Okay, so favorite scene.
I would say it's when Beetlejuice attacks the house and the characters. His like demonic attack.
All his transformations
Yeah.
that he becomes.
Because for me, looking at some of the imagery is frightening to look at.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. This is kind of more my wheelhouse now because I love horror films.
Yeah.
And imagery is a big thing for me.
Yeah.
So seeing that little segment of the film, I was like, okay, I like this
Yeah.
part. This is it for me.
Yeah.
So that was it.
There are stuff that I didn't see until I did some research on this movie. There are a couple pre-nods, if you want to say, Michael Keaton going on to Batman. In Beetlejuice, you can see when Beetlejuice turns into the little Ferris wheel looking thing.
Yep.
When he pops up, there is on the top of the little Ferris wheel, very, very top is a pair of bat wings.
Oh, yeah.
In the shape
You're
of
right.
that looks like Batman.
That's
I noticed
cool.
that
Batman.
too. Yeah.
And then if you look under that, there's a skull that looks like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, that's cool.
wow.
And you can kind of
These are
you
normal.
kind of write that off to Tim Burton
Yeah.
style
isms.
but
Yeah.
that is kind of like, hey, look what that turned
Yeah.
into.
Right.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
So that Michael Keaton, we've talked about this several times, only in the film 14 minutes, and there is a couple of moments where he's going on his little Beetlejuice-esque rants.
Yeah.
That remind me of the scene in Batman where he's like, "You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts." I was like, that's Beetlejuice right there for
Totally.
me. So now I see where that kind of comes
Yeah.
from.
yeah.
Totally.
So Brad, favorite scenes?
It's the Deo scene. I
Really?
love that. I love
It's
that
the Deo
scene.
scene.
I quit
man.
this
So
podcast.
you agreeing with me?
I'm agreeing with you. It's the Deo scene, and it's the where he does turn into like the Ferris wheel. Those are
Yeah.
like the two kind of toss-up ones for me. I really love I get into theatrical makeup, and this being, I believe, one of the iconic theatrical makeup movies.
Yeah.
The waiting room scene.
Oh, yeah, all those scenes, yeah.
I would rewatch that scene.
Yeah.
Just to look at the individual. Where did this guy come from? What happened to him?
Yeah.
The guy smoking. How did they do that?
Right.
And the lady, sawed in half, the magician's assistant. The guy with the shark on his leg.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The guy with a shark on
I
his
didn't even
leg?
catch that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So everybody in that
Yeah.
scene is they're portraying how they died.
Oh.
So there's the guy who has the sausage in his neck, or
What was that?
say,
bone?
Like,
It was-
a bone.
it was
It's a
bone,
bone. in
yeah.
his
Okay.
neck.
It was a
Yeah. So
bone.
it's like protruding from both sides of his neck. Then you have the guy with the shark on his leg. You have the girl.
He mentioned the magician's assistant.
Yep.
Which
Right.
good, but when I saw it, and I was like, she's cut in half,
Yep.
and it just didn't dawn on me. Oh, magician's assistant.
Magician's assistant.
What about the character with like the shrunken head?
Later, we see the character's
Yeah.
shrunken
Now,
head.
what was that?
Where Beetlejuice tries to trade their numbers, and
Yeah.
he gets his head shrunk.
It's my other nitpick. So at the end, Beetlejuice, his number is 2. The person next to him has like 4 billion, whatever the
Yeah.
number is.
Yeah.
Now when Alec Baldwin,
It's reversed.
It's reversed.
Yeah.
But when Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis end up in that office,
Mm-hmm.
the number they pick is way past. You would never get back to number 2.
Yeah, right.
Unless
Yeah.
it just like gets to a number and then it starts over.
Right.
That's the only way. So I guess it's kind of a mini nitpick, but not really.
Yeah.
Right.
Left to interpretation.
Yeah. Again,
I think I'm gonna know what you're gonna say, but my question is this Tim Burton's best movie?
no.
Oh.
Batman. I'm sorry.
No, we go. That's my
Yeah.
answer too.
Oh, okay.
I think Batman. Yeah.
Jeff, come on with the hot take. Give it to us.
Well, okay. First of all, Batman. I think, we stated earlier that it's starting the comic book movie genre.
Yeah.
And I believe Tim Burton is pioneering
That's a good word.
the launch of this genre that is
Which we've never seen before.
it would never seen before, and it only on TV, and only, like I said, TV to movies.
Yeah.
That I think that is hands down that displays his talent.
Right.
Of you don't have anything to go off of.
Yeah.
And you pioneering. I can't stress that.
Concept.
It's.
I mean, you're
it's-
absolutely right, though.
Yeah.
You can't base it off anything else. Tim Burton, I would say there's so many. I really admire Edward Scissorhands. I really admire
Nothing like it.
nothing like it. I really admire Nightmare Before Christmas. It's a cult classic.
Right. Well, I mean, like look at Batman alone. Like we can't. That was the first time we saw a real, serious adult version of Batman. Right. We had seen the
Adam West.
Adam West on
West.
TV. They got a movie for that. But the first Batman movie was a serious take. And how many times have they tried to recreate it?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
They haven't done. I mean, like any of his
Still trying.
Any of Tim Burton. Yeah, any of Tim Burton's movies are completely standalone. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I know he's done some sequels. He doesn't do a lot of sequels. The Johnny Depp, Alice in Wonderland.
Right.
That was also really good. His take on that story.
Yeah.
His visuals and the way he thinks
Sweeney
about
Todd.
things. Sweeney Todd, right? Became that was was the Broadway play before the movie?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What
yes,
is
it
that
was.
sound? Are you burping?
It's a burp. Yeah.
Okay, it sounds
Burp
like.
cough.
Yeah, it's a burp cough.
I don't-
Yeah.
I thought-
it's a boff.
All right.
It's a buff.
Okay, Sweeney Todd. Was Sweeney Todd a Broadway play before or after the movie?
I thought it was before.
Wait. Yeah. Way
Yeah.
before.
So the movie's based on the play.
Yes.
Okay.
You
Sweeney
know what?
Todd
I take
actually.
it back.
The butcher of
Fleet Street.
Fleet Street.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, because when I saw that in the theaters,
fact check.
I was blown away. So for me, that would be his second best, in my opinion. Batman and then Sweeney Todd. And your favorite female character. Why don't you say her name for us?
Helena Bonham Carter.
So a few weeks ago, we covered a movie, Terminator Salvation, and I told Brad just to refer to her as HBC.
HBC.
Yeah, it covers everything.
Sounds like a grocery company. I don't know.
Because HEB?
Oh, that's why. Okay.
We're open for sponsors still. HB,
Yeah.
if you want to come on
We
board.
are looking for sponsors, for real. We really want IMDb because we're
IMDb.
always on
We
that.
should. Yeah, I live on IMDb.
Oh gosh.
All right, so
The Demon Barber of Fleet
the
Street.
Demon
It's a
Barber.
great,
of
that's a
Fleet
great
Street.
title.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool.
Yeah.
I may watch that again because it's Halloween season still.
Oh yeah.
So this film actually does wrap up our Halloween
This is the
series.
end of spooky season.
It is.
as I like to call
It's
it.
my favorite season, so I'm kind of sad that we're leaving it.
I'm sorry, we're ending on a movie that you didn't really like.
But wait, Halloween season next year? Oh boy, I got some movies for you, buddy.
All right. We'll look
but
forward
we're
on
actually
that.
going into my actual favorite time of year, though.
Which is what?
Which is the holiday season.
Yep,
Thanksgiving, Christmas. We have
Same.
some big movies planned that we're going to
Yep.
cover. We have some guests we want to
Some-
bring on for
some
some of
guests we're
those
gonna bring
movies.
on. Yep.
Hopefully, Jeff, it's been
An honor.
incredible having and an
Yeah.
honor having you
Yeah.
here.
Awesome.
The fact that I didn't know this, but Brad was the one that told me you're like our biggest loyal fan. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your support. We both do.
Yep.
I'm glad to have you here.
And-
You're actually going to be back for our other podcast this weekend, so
Yep.
we're going to continue this. But I
We're
wanted to
happy-
say that.
We're happy you're here because like we not only have you as you're commentating on the movies we're talking about,
Right.
your expertise on that. We're also having you here because we're sitting literally in a warehouse, but we're also under a fort.
We're a fort.
that
It's a
we
man
built.
fort.
It's a man
And
fort.
I hope that listeners can hear the difference in audio quality because like now that I know how to build this and what this looks like,
This is what we'll do
We're
moving
literally
forward.
sitting in a
It's
a combination
carpet padding.
of
Yeah.
carpet padding and 2x4s and TV boxes. Like if you walked in the warehouse right now and looked at us, we're sitting literally in a fort, with our little glasses of whatever we're drinking. And,
Would you call this a jury rig booth?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, like it. That's
Makeshift.
why I knew I woke up this morning at 4 a.m. and I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about how we were going to make our podcast sound better.
Yeah.
And I get here, we bounced some ideas off each other, and then we created this, and hopefully the listeners can tell how it sounds different.
So Jeff's going to help take this thing to the next level.
yeah.
Because
There you go.
as we know,
Yeah.
because we're an audio only, no video yet.
Yep.
Audio's everything.
Yep.
It has to be the forefront.
Okay.
Jeff recently was laid off.
Right.
Jeff is and I've always called you this, a sound guru.
Right.
Jeff is currently unemployed, and if we have any listeners that need a professional audio engineer,
I like to say I'm an independent contractor right now.
There you go.
anybody's-
Hey, that's a great title to have.
if
though,
anybody's
trust
looking
me.
for an independent contractor that's
Independent
really, really good
contractor.
at sound,
And both Brad and I
Jeff-
vouch for this guy.
Yeah, Jeff Warren is the man.
I've recently, thank you. I recently was a broadcast engineer. I've been for the last 10 years or more, sprouting out into the video broadcast world, and so I'm an engineer first, and I work in everything. I work in live entertainment, which is anything from sports to concerts to I've done so much theater, I have a real passion for theater, and I love to. The way I got started in the industry is people that were head of the industry, that were top of their industry, basically said, you want to learn? Come on, I'll teach you. And that's how I learned what I do today. And I'm on 21, going on 22 years in the industry. And anybody that I work with, I got that knowledge by them passing it to me, and I feel it's my responsibility to pass that knowledge on to others that
awesome.
want to learn.
That's great.
If you're open and willing to learn, I'm more than happy to teach you.
So there's two things that, just to kind of piggyback off of what you said, because I was all perfect. So I'm just adding on, but I couldn't have said it any better. There's two things about the film industry in this business of content creating. One, you can't learn it without being on set and doing it. This is a very hands-on business that we're in. You can go to film school, and that's great to learn the technical aspects.
Thank you.
But you have to apply. You have to apply what you learn.
Right.
For me, I didn't go to film school, but I've done a lot of research, and I have been on some film sets, commercial sets. Even the Steven Spielbergs and the James Camerons of this industry don't sign contracts. They're all independent contractors.
Yeah.
No one signs 3 movie deals.
Right.
No one signs multiple season extensions. It's all based on what you earn in the studio for that season or for that movie.
Yeah.
And if you don't earn enough money, they're not going to call you back for another season or another episode or to do the sequel. They'll get somebody else.
Yeah.
So everybody in the film industry, we're in that industry. We're all independent contractors in that regard.
Yeah.
It's all based on reputation. And from what I just met you last night, but from what I know about you already, your resume to me would speak for itself. So, like Brad said, if anybody out there listening needs somebody for sound or whatever other expertise that Jeff can fulfill, please reach out to us or reach out to Jeff.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I'm always about supporting your local arts. I'm always about supporting who you feel that is great. You know, you listen to podcasts, you see videos, you see struggling artists. Go out there, support them.
Right.
Buy them a ham sandwich.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because
every little thing helps. Because
every little thing
James
helps.
Cameron was once a guy that was an inexperienced Michael Mann,
Quentin Tarantino.
all these guys.
Literally a video store clerk.
Yeah, all of these guys, these A-list actors and directors that you guys love, started out
support 'em.
at the bottom level.
Yeah.
Support them.
So,
go out there and show them how much you love them.
You can't get to the top without support. You just can't.
And from my side, you guys, I love you guys. I love what you're doing. I want to support it. A click, a subscribe. That's free.
Yeah.
Subscribers, people listening. That takes a fraction of a second to do.
Right.
Go out, support those people that you like, and then you can say, hey, I supported them from the start.
Yeah.
That's true.
And see how far they've got because of your support. And I hate to sound like a PBS commercial.
No, please, PBS away.
But we support PBS.
It's the truth. Yeah.
Right.
Because I believe in independent arts, and I believe that you need to get out there and support it, and support it by watching it, by viewing it, by buying their art, by subscribing to, do what you can. 90% of that's free.
Right.
And listening, that's free.
Yeah.
That's entertainment that they're providing. Go out there, support them.
Yep. Well, Jeff, thank you so much for coming on, man. We really appreciate your time. I have been Brad.
And I've been Mike.
And this is Beards and Flicks. Thank you, guys.
Jeff!